Alright guys, 66 Gamer here again. It took me 7 hours and 13 minutes to finish the Plains map on hardcore. I could have done it faster, I'm sure, but just the way it played out, I mean, it's just how long it took me. 7 hours. Look how much fuel I burned. A whole bunch of refuel missions. This map kicked my ass, no doubt about it. I thought about taking my last video down because I guess it was just put up kind of hastily in frustration. I went on the forums and kind of put a post about my frustration and found out it's not the cart. So let's get away from this truck, which is also a big... This truck, I don't know if it's the map, because apparently there is a problem with this map, and that Pavel, or the developer, whoever, basically just made the entire map the same, like the same consistency of mud all over the map. Like, so roads are no different than the muddy plains in the middle of this. Like, this is where it's supposed to be boggy, you know, which is fine, except the roads are no different. So whoever made this map just screwed it up, basically. Like, there's no difference between driving here and driving on this road, which is what I ran into with the garage cart. And the video, I believe the video was shot up here. And I explained that I basically had to tow that truck all the way. Like, I could never, or maybe the video was shot right there. But let's go. I think this truck has a little fuel in it. And we can see here, that's not going to go away. I thought that would go away. So that's kind of annoying that you can't continue to play a map without that in the way. Or I just don't know how to get rid of it. So real quick, let's, alright, so play with a gamepad. That's all I can tell you. Get a USB gamepad and play with it, because it doesn't have to be an Xbox controller. I'm using this thing's got to be 4 or 5 years old, Logitech, basically a Logitech copy of a PS2, or yeah, it would have been at the time a PS3 controller. It's got the 2 thumbsticks and D-pad, all the buttons, shoulder buttons, so same thing. And the reason for that is steering control and mostly throttle control is... You still have to use the keyboard and mouse, and it makes shifting kind of clunky. You have to use the D-pad, but throttle control is where it's at. Alright, so we are in the plains, and it's supposed to be muddy. I get that. But it's a little ridiculous. Let's see, where are we again? Yeah. So apparently, you know, after posting on the forums, learned a couple things. That one, it's not. Now see how we're floating? Now we're floating over the mud. But if you watch, let's turn on. Alright, I'm full throttle. And 15, 16. Not paying attention to where I'm going. So it gets up to about max. We get up to 16 liters a minute. But then if you just back off, you actually move a little better, smoother. You don't dig in as much, and you use about half as much fuel. As you can see, I'm moving over the surface at about half throttle. I'm using about half the amount of fuel. So use a D-pad. Get yourself a generic game controller with thumbsticks or a wheel, whatever. Also, the D-pad actually makes the camera. It's still the SpinTires camera, but in my opinion, the D-pad actually makes it more intuitive. Like, instead of trying to figure out which direction to move your mouse, you basically down is back, up is forward and up, left and right, or left and right. It still gets a little, takes some getting used to, but the D-pad controls really simplify it. I'm probably making you guys motion sick right now. And honestly, I've learned to love the camera, and I think because it's supposed to be like cinematic. Like, I want to see what my tires are doing. In real life, you don't have this luxury. See, here's the problem with the syncing. Like, if the mud was really that soft, the grass wouldn't be there. Like, it would be, you'd actually have a little bit of standing water. You really shouldn't just sink like that with grass there. You know, vegetation's actually going to firm up the soil a little bit. See, now we're riding over. And I'm only about half throttle, moving great, not sucking down fuel. You can really notice it in the 7310, because you can burn up to 60 liters of fuel a minute in that truck if you're just holding W at full throttle. But with a D-pad, you pull back about half throttle, you actually move a little better. You don't get as much wheel spin, and you use half the fuel. So you can leave all-wheel drive on and burn the amount of fuel that you would burn with diff lock on at full throttle. And you actually move a little smoother. You don't get bogged down as much. We're just moving right along, burning a small amount of fuel. So I just wanted to put up another video, basically talk about the D-pad and basically say, hey, it's not a problem with the garage cart. Obviously there was a problem, I just didn't realize exactly what it was at the time. It's this map. And somebody, oh, here we go, I need to take a hard right. Somebody pointed out to me as well, the reason that the orange Kamaz moves so much better. Where is it? There we go. Is apparently it weighs like half as much as these Urals. So the civilian style Kamaz 6x6 apparently weighs less than these Urals, which I don't, if it really is half, then that's too much. It's still an industrial medium duty truck. It probably shouldn't weigh, unless it's, well, I don't know. I'm not real sure on the Russian truck specs. I mean, you can actually go look them up. Hey. Alright, so we can see. So, anyways, last video, the problem with which I thought was the garage cart was really with the map. Maybe do a little research. Also found out that, and I guess I kind of knew this, but it is a game, that it's a little, and they call it a game. The developers apparently arguing that SpinTires is not a simulation, it's a game. And that would be true because, like, right now, the trucks sink almost the entire depth of the tire, which is, unless there's water, you're not going to sink this deep in mud because the axles, which are large, solid pieces of steel on military trucks, are going to hit the mud and stop the truck from sinking this far. And if your truck did sink this far because you kept on the gas and your wheels eventually just dug little holes for themselves and no longer were touching anything because you were sitting on your axles, you would not be able to move. Like, this should not be possible. If your truck was really this far in the mud, you should not be able to just power out of it because you'd be resting on your axles and even the frame of the truck, and your tires would just basically dig holes around themselves until they were basically no longer touching anything of substance. So that's a little unrealistic. So there is a guy who has done some tweaking to files. It's not really a mod per se, it's just tweaking of the stock game files where the tires will not sink more than the radius of the tire, which means basically you will never see a tire sink past the hub of the axle, which is more realistic. But to compensate for that, he made the mud more slippery. So that is a much more realistic representation of how mud works and the function. And basically he did one radius of the tire to simulate that your truck is not going to sink past the axles. Now obviously if you're going through someone else's ruts that are already there, you know, a bigger truck, you know, your tires may sink further, but you're still limited to where your axles are. In a lot of situations, you know, you're not in thick mud, it's going to take a lot for your truck to overpower the force of the mud against your axles and your frame and your springs and all that. So I'm probably going to download his mod or tweaks and check it out. Real quick, let's look at how the 6522 or the Kamaz, I think this is a Kamaz, right? Based on a Kamaz civilian, oh, maybe military as well. But these trucks just perform so much better on this map. Really, you should do the whole map with the orange truck. Everybody, I don't know, I know in early videos of SpinTires, everybody's like, oh, this truck's terrible. Well, on this map, it's fantastic. This is the most capable truck on this map. Hands down. The 7310 basically is less capable just because of fuel consumption alone. I'll tell you what, I know I'm making you guys motion sick with the camera, but let's do this. We'll stay in auto. We don't have diff lock on, we don't have all-wheel drive on. Now this is a rooty, there are a lot of roots there, so this is a pretty firm trail. But here is some nice mud. So basically, if you want this to be more realistic, you need to modify the game so that the mud is less grippy. I know it seems like, what? The mud's too grippy. Well, yes, it is. Like I demonstrated with the Ural, if your tires sink past the hubs, you should be on your axles, which means your tires are no longer in contact. They're no longer supporting the truck. The axles are. So the tires basically lose all grip because you're resting on the axles. And you should not be able to move if you're that deep. So really the answer to that is to make it so, I mean, just see how this truck just floats in this map. And even when it does get in mud, it just powers through. I mean, this is the most capable truck on the Plains map. Really, you should get both of these, the one at the garage, the one at the lumber point, and probably finish the whole map with these trucks and save yourself a lot of heartache. The Urals are just terrible. The 7310 is pretty awful because you just spend so much time in diff lock all-wheel drive bogged in the mud, pedal to the metal just to move anywhere. That it's just bad. It's bad. The orange truck, like, I mean, this thing is just cruising along. We can put it in high mode, and that's the other thing. This game, the physics engine cannot handle speed well. Just see how, I mean, you get going any kind of speed, and it's like you suddenly lose all traction, you lose all grip. Your front tires don't do anything, and you fly off the road. I mean, that is unrealistic. I can tell you as somebody that, as I keep repeating, I see how we're moving right now. The mud's too grippy. We don't have anything engaged. No traction aids engaged, and we're just pushing right through. And really, this truck's lower to the ground, doesn't have the ground clearance. It would hit its axles sooner. So that is one thing with the joypad. The steering becomes a little over responsive, and there's unfortunately really no way to adjust to that I know of. I'm sure there is some kind of steering response torque or something, so it's not so twitchy. So now just by modulating the throttle, I'm using less fuel. And by being able to modulate the throttle, you don't have to just come to a stop when your diff turns red. You can just take the torque, lower the throttle down, and you can not disengage the diff because it'll go away. Because you're taking the torque off. This truck is easily the most capable truck on this map. This map, they basically painted this map with a broad brush and did not differentiate mud depth and behavior on different types of terrain. It's all the same everywhere. So it wasn't the garage cart, it's the map, and partially the game itself. Also, I'm going to restart my Volcano playthrough because I don't want to do 2 hours of post commentary. And I do want to download these tweaks to the game and play it through it that way, from scratch. So that's what'll be coming up. But this won't happen for a while because I'm going out of town for like the next 2 months. So this may be the last SpinTire videos for a while, just because I won't have access to SpinTires for a long time, unfortunately. And I just got addicted to it again. Also, real quick, since this may be my last video, a winching tip. Let's see if we can do this. Let me get somewhere real quick. I don't know if, many of you have tried this or done this. There are plenty of people that have been playing this game longer than I have, and they'll probably know all the tricks. But, I guess we don't really need to be stuck to do this. Let's go ahead. Let's get down here. Sometimes you may find a situation where you don't really have any winch points in front of you, or you have a winch point right in front of your truck, and that's it. It's not really going to help you, right? Wrong. And this actually can be justified in the real world by using what's called snatch blocks, which are basically pulleys, single pulleys, that you then attach their own little tree saver or strap to, and you can strap the pulley, the snatch block as we call them, to a large rock or most likely a tree, and basically change the geometry of your winch pull. So, let's see. Okay, these winch points are fairly close to the front of my truck, like especially this one here. It's not really going to help me a whole lot, right? Well, use your rear winch point and winch forward with it. Now, in real life, the winch cable obviously would not go through the truck. What you would do is attach a snatch block behind the truck off to the side and run your rear winch cable through the pulley off to the side and then back up to that tree, and you'd get the same effect. So, you know, you can use your rear winch point to get you forward. You know, don't get frustrated over not having a good winch point further in front of your truck for your front winch point. Use your rear winch point to pull yourself forward. It may not look kosher because your winch cable is clipping through the truck, but just imagine using a snatch block to the side or the rear of the truck to reroute that winch cable forward. And I guess you could do the same thing if you had to go backwards, you know, and same thing applies. But yeah, so just want to do another video quickly about SpinTires and the plains map problem and the winching and the issues with the mud, how it doesn't really simulate real mud, and how the trucks would work. I don't know if there's a problem with the way the trucks were modeled, the axles and the underside of the truck does not have collision detection. Because as you see, when you make ruts and SpinTires, you get these ridges in between the tires where really it should be flat, where the axles are pushing the mud and creating, you know, a flat spot in between where the tire ruts are. So yeah. Anyways, and you can see how capable this truck is. I just climbed that hill without any traction aid on. So this truck, I love the orange trucks, to be honest, even in other maps. But on this map, the orange truck actually comes into its own due to the problems with the mud and the weight of the other trucks, apparently. So the Kamaz to the rescue. The 6522 is the way to go on a plains map. So, all right, guys. I'll see you guys.